Okay, so the question out there for many of us that do this stuff back here is it okay to upgrade to Mac OS Sonoma from Ventura or a previous version as long as your computer is compatible with Sonoma? Should you be updating to that particular version? And so before we talk about that, let me talk about the various things that I consider before ever upgrading to any operating system. And that is, does it work with everything that I have? Does it work with all of my plugins? Does it work with the applications that I use? Are there any compatibility issues with any of the digital audio workstations that I may use? Things like that. Is it good to go, or should I be patient and wait? Now, I do want to get this out of there because my Windows brothers and sisters, and I happen to love Windows too. It's a fantastic operating system. But this is when you guys love to kind of chime in and start slinging mud because you simply don't understand some things or act flat out just ignore to accept them. But the reality is the difference between Windows and Mac in so many situations is Mac is constantly evolving. It's constantly evolving. It's adapting to the habits of people and the needs of people, which is why a new operating system pretty much comes out every year or every 18 months to give us more features, more things that make it more compelling to jump to it. Whereas Windows is responsible, they just mainly try to stay stable, and they don't bring in anywhere near the degree or volume-wise of additional features that you may or may not find compelling. And so here's the thing for all my Windows users out there as it relates to your Mac brothers and sisters. At the end of the day, they don't have to make the upgrade. They can stay right where they're at. So you get choices, quite frankly. You get options on a Mac side that you don't often get on a Windows side, all right? And so for those of you who kind of want to throw the sling or mud at Apple saying, they're constantly evolving and changing. Well, that is true, okay? But it doesn't mean you have to go to it. So where does that lie today? Now, I've got a second computer here in the house, in addition to my main computer that I do all my production work on, both audio as well as video, here in this space here. Well, I have a separate computer that I work on that I test things like various digital audio workstations, plugins, as well as operating systems before I'm willing to make that jump to the next level. Because like my mama told me every day of my life, Barry, just because you can does not mean you should. And that's the advice that I'm always going to give you as it relates to jumping on to either the latest version of a particular plugin, the latest version of an digital audio workstation, or the latest version of an operating system. I'm going to tell you that always be cautious when it comes to that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's working, just leave it alone. You can't relate to your project studio computer in the same way you would relate to a personal device for email, surfing the internet, games, things like that. It would be irresponsible to do that because you're likely going to jack up your recording studio and cause you all kinds of problems, which is exactly what I found in OS Sonoma. I found there was a couple of digital audio workstations I couldn't find any issues with, but like Cubase and Nuendo and Pro Tools, those were just a no-go for me right out of the gate. Now, I have not tested those against the most recent update that they did to Sonoma. So it'd be interesting to see if when they made that fix. But it's just a matter of time. It generally happens fairly quickly with Apple as far as getting out the necessary bug fixes and compatibility issues. They tend to get those worked out very quickly. So for right now, I'm going to tell you to stay away from Sonoma, okay? Just stay away from it and stay right where you are if it's working. In other words, if you're not having any particular problems, why upgrade? That's what you have to always ask yourself. But for those of you who like to test the waters and test things and see where things are, if you don't have the ability to have a secondary computer, many of you are not going to be in that situation. If you don't, then get yourself another external hard drive and install everything that you want to test on that drive. You can actually install the operating system and all your applications and get that going right out of the gate from an external Thunderbolt drive on a Mac. Okay, I've got one of my Macs that I do that with. I bought a very generic base M1 with hardly any hard drive. That's what I use to test it with, but I actually have an external 2 terabyte NVMe drive, I think that's how you say it, drive that's in that is almost as fast as the drive that's built into the internal of the Mac. And I just load Mac OS Sonoma from that, as well as install whatever apps that I want to try that out on. So you've got that option as well. Or if you've got enough hard disk space, you can obviously create a secondary partition and then install there. So you have options if you feel so compelled. But before jumping into just outright doing it, I promise you, if you go into this world here with that mindset, you will regret it sooner or later. And hopefully you'll only make that mistake once, as most of us have, including myself. All right? So if you guys have made the chance or you made the transition to Sonoma, tell us how it's working for you as it relates to the Project Studio. What digital audio section are you using, and is it working well with it, as well as plugins? What about those of you who jumped and made that mistake and it's already kind of too late, or maybe you should go back in time machine or whatever? But the bottom line is, if you've had some problems with it, put that down below too. Okay? But until next time, I hope all of you have a great day, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye.